mirror, as well as we look forward in our spyglass and trying to determine what this year is going to look like. Some of the questions I'll be asking today, my phone stops ringing, that will help us reflect or look back in the mirror or look at our spyglass and look in the future. My first question will be, what was your fondest memory of this last year, 2018? Lori, would you like to answer this question? Okay.
You sure you want to start with me since I was a speaker?
Oh, well, we have a very, I guess I could try to start with Tammy and Tyler then.
I mean, I can answer your question if you want. Okay. Do you want me to?
Sure.
All right. My fondest memory of 2018. Oh, well, it was a tough year. But I guess a fond memory would be, well, before my father died, he was in the hospital in September. And visiting him as he recovered. So he had a miraculous recovery from pneumonia and septic shock. And that is a fond memory, that miraculous recovery and him waking up from being in a coma for 2.5 days and just so excited to be alive and full of energy. And we were singing and he would be bopping around in his hospital bed. We would put on his favorite music on his iPhone, and he had a ball laughing and joking around with the nurses. So he was just full of life, enjoying himself. He probably loved getting away from my stepmother, which was his wife. And he probably enjoyed being surrounded by all these lovely ladies in the hospital. So that's my fondest memory for 2018.
Thank you so much, Lori. My next question is that is there a lie that you've actually believed in? Has anybody told you a lie that you believed in, and did you become to learn that it was not the truth? Tammy.
Sorry, I was having problems unmuting myself. Well, I suppose the first thing that comes to mind when you think about lies is when we were kids and Santa Claus. But that was a long time ago. I remember, though, when my sister, who's 1.5 years older than me, when we figured it out, we have a younger brother, and we're like, we don't want Joe to know that this whole Santa Claus thing isn't real, because guess what? If he knows, then Mom and Dad are going to figure it out, and that might limit our gifts prospects. So we tried to keep it a secret from him as long as we could. And of course, eventually he figured it out too. But interestingly enough, along the same lines of lies, my husband I have stepchildren, step-grandchildren, and step-great-grandchildren. But the step-granddaughter from Atlanta, they were here over Christmas for a day. We visited them. And so she's 5. And I said, well, does Santa Claus come? And she's like, no, Santa Claus isn't real. I'm like, she's 5 years old. Well, she literally knew. She asked her parents, it's you, isn't it? And everything is so literal for her that she just couldn't let it go that this was a lie that Santa existed. And I thought, wow, maybe 5 isn't as young as I think it is. But I said, you didn't tell any of your classmates? And she said, well, I told my friend. And then her friend was mad at her because she was lying to her about Santa Claus. But I guess of the lies that we think we believed, the first one that comes to mind is Santa Claus. And then I have to reflect on Elizabeth said, well, he's not really real. And she had a loose tooth. And she told me too, well, the tooth fairy isn't real either. So smart little girl. Back to you, table topic master.
Thank you. Apparently it's a cold or something. I had a hard time unmuting myself as well. I swear I clicked on it 3 times. In any case, I have one last question. Of life lessons, do you have one that you had to experience firsthand before you fully understood it? Don.
Can I pass this
Sure.
one on to Andrea?
Sure. But I'm not going to answer that one. I'm going to answer my favorite memory from the last year. My favorite memory from the last year was when I went up for Mother's Day to see my mother in Seattle. And my mother is now 86 years old, 86 years young. She has severe bone-on-bone stuff going on with her knees. It's very, very, very painful. But for whatever reason, my nieces and nephews and my sisters decided that they wanted to go to the park for Mother's Day. So my mother just said, okay, I'll go with you. And the place that they chose had a hill in it. And my mother had to get herself out of the car and on a walker down the hill on a gravel path to across the lawn to the place where they had set up their little picnic area. My mother is such a game person that she went along with the whole thing, but then she sat down in one of those sling chairs and she could not get herself out of it. And she was laughing and laughing and got everybody laughing. We were just crying because of this picture. And I filmed it and have played it back for her to remind her that she is, even at 86, she finally got herself out of the chair. She raised her hands in victory, and we all got to cheer with her. And that's just my favorite memory from this last year. Back to you, Table Topics Master.
Thank you so much, Andrew. That was a very precious memory. You had us all laughing. We'll move on to our final segment of our meeting, which is our evaluation portion. And our general evaluator, Andrea, will take care of that portion for us. Please help me welcome Andrea.
Thank you. I am not sure who evaluated Lori. Can someone raise their hand? Did anybody evaluate Lori? Nobody evaluated Lori. Okay, I'll go ahead and evaluate Lori. Did anybody evaluate Dawn? Okay. So I thought I was evaluating Dawn, but that's okay. So I'll do Lori. Lori, I loved your speech today. It was awesome. Very, very engaging. I've always wondered how that Haftorah canting went and how you figured out what you were supposed to sing when you were supposed to sing it. It's so beautiful, and you have a beautiful voice. You did a great job of explaining it to us, showing us the symbols. You kept, though there was a little glitch in getting the screen up so that we could see it, you stayed on time with that. You also just did a wonderful job of singing it to us, and it was such a joy and a pleasure, something that many of us aren't able to do. One of the things with Toastmasters is that we get to show each other a little bit about ourselves and who we are and what is important to us, and you really exemplified that today, what's important to you, and I really enjoyed that part of that. I wish that we had more time so we could have heard more. You also always have very good vocal inflection, and I'm sure it's because of your training with the Haftorah and singing and canting for all of these years. You know how to project your voice well, and I really appreciate that. I also appreciated that you did share a screen with us. That's a bold move for you, something new that you just tried. You challenged yourself, and you were successful once it got up and running. One of the things that I would suggest, though, is to think about where your mouse is going and slow it down. it jiggled. So my eyes kind of had to jiggle with it while you were showing us the different points. Taking your hand off the mouse might help with that. You also stayed engaged when we saw you with the camera, which was great. That's something that you've been working on, and you did a great job with it today. Back to me as general evaluator today, and now I'm going to ask Tammy to go ahead and do her evaluation of Dawn.
All right. I realized when I looked at the agenda, I thought somebody doesn't have an evaluation, so I picked to evaluate Dawn. I'm sorry that Andrea also had done the same thing, but icebreakers are always a great speech for us to get to know each other a little bit better. Even though we've been with you for a few months now, I knew you were a coach, but it was kind of interesting to hear your journey about how you became a coach. I like the repetition of using Gabby, Gabby, Gabby to get us started with. I thought, wait a minute, who's Gabby? So that was kind of cute to explain. You were the Gabby. And you realize even then as a young child how you may not have realized talking is for a coach, but you found yourself to be a good talker. And that was something that was kind of fun to learn about you. I thought you did a great job with your enunciation, with your words, and also a good job with your body language, but really the hand gestures. You kept pointing back, like this was back in the past, and that was a good, you were reflecting on what was in the past. I didn't know that you went to college to be an engineer, and what an interesting journey that led you to. And I just love that part about you found yourself as a grad assistant giving advice to others, and that clearly was showing you what your path was supposed to be. And you mentioned that sometimes it seems like you might be a little bossy, but I don't know if that's really true about coaches, that they want to help people. I did notice a few ands, but nothing that was overly noticeable, just trying to find things, as evaluation says, what can you challenge yourself with? And another thing I thought of too was your title was Life as a Highway. Maybe somehow repeat that title or weave it into your story. Maybe end with that, how your life has been this highway, and you will probably share more with this journey for you too, since this was your icebreaker, and your next speech might build on that too. So that would be maybe one suggestion. Vocal variety and your eye contact with the camera was good as well. Another thing I wrote down too, that you've learned to listen. I think that's a great lesson for anybody, coach or non-coach. I really enjoyed this speech and getting to know a little bit more about you as you found your journey to be a coach. Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you. Now is my opportunity to evaluate, to ask for the timers report.
Do we want to do round robins?
Sure. We can do round robins. Let's get the timers report, and then we'll do the round robins and just move on from there.
Okay, here's the timers report. Oh, and by the way, Dawn, I'll fill out the evaluation form online so you have that if you want to count that as a speech. Lori asked for 8 to 10. Her speech was 10:36. Dawn asked for 4 to 6, and she clocked in at 6:14. Our table topics, which were to be 1 to 2, Lori was a minute 25. I spoke for a minute 40, and Andrea spoke for a minute 38, so we all did a great job on table topics. And our evaluations were to be 2 to 3. Andrea's was 2 minutes and 15 seconds, and I evaluated for 2 minutes and 20 seconds. That is my timer report.
Thank you. I'm going to open it up now to round robin evaluation for Lori first. Does anybody want to add anything to the evaluation for Lori? Go on.
Yeah, I enjoyed it as well, and I really felt that one of the things that I thought would maybe be something that you could have tried is that space where you were opening up the screen. You may have even chanted a little bit about what you were doing to make it, kind of to fill the space and to connect your speech with what you were doing. I think it's awkward when we're doing it. I mean, I find that we all can use try different methods as we go along, because it is not always a very easy thing to share the screen and to make that seamless. So maybe we can all try some new ways to do that. I, of course, enjoyed learning about you starting this when you were 50. Is that what you said, when you were 50? That was one of my favorite pieces about this, was learning that you started when you were 50. Gives me hope for starting other things as well. So thank you. That's all. I enjoy all your speeches.
Anyone else? Kimmy.
I also have to echo that I enjoyed that speech, and I was just fascinated. I could look close enough to see what you were doing, so that was great. Oh, by the way, I just saw your message. Your speech was 10 minutes and 36 seconds. I find that to be interesting. My husband's really been interested in studying Judaism, and I've looked at this and I thought, are these letters? What is it? So I appreciate learning more about your Jewish heritage and what those symbols mean and how you read it, and the amazing chant. So I applaud you for wanting to sing to us. I would never do that. So thank you for your speech.
Yeah, Trisha, do you want to add anything?
Mostly everyone else has mentioned, and I did appreciate that Lori had, prior to today's meeting, met with Rick and just said, I want to have a better presence online. How do I do that? I had thrown around some ideas and decided, I lower my chair, I'll have a better presence. And it did. It made it much more nicely framed than you have been in the past. So I just appreciate your efforts in doing that.
Great. Now I'm going to switch and do open round robin for Dawn's speech. Does anybody have any other comments? Trisha. Sorry.
That's okay. I just wanted to say, Dawn, obviously something close to your heart. Your enthusiasm, your joy about being a coach just translated itself into your presentation. The only thought I've had is, because you are so exuberant, some of your hand movements were very quick, which on the video sometimes is I can't think of the word, but it's very blurry. That's the word. So when you are doing these, we're just try and be purposeful about your hand movements so that we can see exactly what you are trying to convey. But other than that, I was also very intrigued to hear your history. Thank you for sharing.
Lori, would you like to jump in? Okay.
I always enjoy Dawn's speeches. And one of the things I noticed today, although she often does this anyway, Dawn is so incredibly expressive with her facial expressions. I could feel Dawn's exuberance and her passion just from her face. The hand gesture thing is difficult in video. I struggle with it myself. But the fact that most of the image is our head, I thought that Dawn does such a wonderful job connecting with her audience, exuding the warmth and passion that she has about what she's talking about. And it was wonderful to learn more about how we've gotten to know Dawn and a little bit about her personality and how her vocation is in alignment with who she is as a person. I really enjoyed the speech a lot. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you. I also have something to say. I thought it was great. You did a great job. Love the story. I also liked your hand gestures. You had some really great hand gestures. I liked your phone. I liked some of that Gabby. There were a couple of times when Gabby went like this, so down below the thing. So I knew you were doing it, but I didn't see it. So yeah, it would be helpful if you just remember that you're cut off at a certain level. You could see your shoulders shrugging, so I knew you were making motions down here. And that's okay, because I know you're just exuberant and exciting, and I would love to have a conversation with you in person, because I'm betting that your whole body engages in everything that you're talking about because you get so excited. So I just thought I'd mention it that, you know, we do see the shrugging when you're using the lower hand gestures, and it's just something to be aware of. Okay, back to me as general evaluator again. I want to say that thanks again for everybody doing all the different roles that we do when we have our smaller groups. The meeting was on time, efficient, great table topics. They were fun to answer and think about. Tammy did a great job of evaluating you, Dawn pointing out the things that were difficult for you, but also just really encouraging you and helping you to know that what you have to say is very valuable, and that we appreciate the sharing that you do with each of us. Me, I would say that I could have improved on my evaluation, but since it was an impromptu evaluation, I think pat on the back for me. Woohoo! I did a great job. As far as the rest of the meeting goes, again, I think we do a great job with whatever we have. It shows that we are advanced Toastmasters, and I really enjoy that. I hope that more people will come and join us in the future. Back to you. Who would like to take the meeting to the end? Toastmaster of the day?
Yeah, I'll take it, and then I'll.
Okay.
Yes, I also felt that we had a really good and productive meeting, but it was also very beneficial. It was beneficial. It was worth our while. It was fun, which I always think is the indication of a very well done meeting. That's what we did. And again, it helps that we are all in advanced Toastmasters, and we can flawlessly handle almost anything that happens in the meeting. I would like to turn the meeting back over to our president, Dawn Nacera. Close us out.
Thank you, Trisha. And thank you, everyone, again, for a great meeting. And I'm going to share the screen and we'll stop the recording.